Hello, my gaming friends. I'm Sigfried Trent, game designer, co-creator of Everyday Heroes, and bringer of gifts for Sig Trent Games. Today I'm going to tell you what's been going on with Sig Trent Games for the last 2 weeks, offer you a bit of game design advice, feature one of my products, and talk about what I've been doing in life and in gaming. So, Sig Trent Games, week 46 and 47. What happened to week 46? Well, it was the holidays. By the time I remembered that I needed to record a video, I was already packing up to head out of town to spend the holiday with my friends and family, so I didn't get a chance to do that. But it was a short week for me, so not a whole lot interesting happened, and we'll just cover it this week and talk about what's going on. So Shotgun Fantasy, layout work continues, and it's looking really awesome. I'm very happy with what we've done so far. Delayed a little bit because we have another contract to do some layout work, but it'll get out this month, I'm pretty sure. You can see our early test page over on Discord if you want to check that out. Still a little work to go from there, but I think it looks really beautiful, and I like that general style. So that's the style we're going with. We're just going to work a little bit on the image presentation and that kind of thing. And there's going to be some different pages that have slightly different styles because it's a genre mixing book. So we're going to have some different elements in there, some more technological and some more fantastic. So far, so good. Also, I got a line on a means possibly to print it on demand that I thought was really promising because it meant I wouldn't need to have any warehousing and I don't need to do any shipping. I could just print it on demand and send out to people. Unfortunately, the price per book came out to around $27 cost. So that means I have to sell it a fair bit beyond $27 in order to make any money. And so that's probably not a great option. I still might offer it, though, as something that people can do as a print on demand if you really want it and you're willing to pay a premium. Then you can get it early in print. Otherwise, I think we'll still maybe have to look at something traditional. So I've got a friend who's a CEO of another gaming company. He's going to help me out a little bit when it comes to printing, give me some advice, kind of give me the lay of the land, give me the right people to talk to so that we can look at that. But I think at first it's going to come out for PDF and print on demand, but do expect that the print on demand price is going to be a little bit premium because that's just how print on demand tends to be. All right, a mystery project is working steadily on this. It's my main focus. Deadline is the 6th of January. So I really need to hustle on that. I've still got a bit to go. It's definitely doable. I think I will make it in time. But that's the situation there. Night Magics is kind of on hold while I finish the mystery project. So once January 6th rolls around, I'll be able to switch back over and work on that. But in the meantime, it's kind of off my plate. Tomb of the Lost, I got about a third of the way through rewriting that in preparation for running it, which I was able to do, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So that's coming along nicely. That's something I think, I've had that manuscript around for a really long time. And now that I have my own publishing company, I think it's something that I want to publish. We're going to try to do that adventure in different game systems. So it'll be available for Everyday Heroes, and then available for like 5e, and then maybe Shadow Dark or some other systems. Because it's kind of an old school dungeon crawly sort of adventure, so it would work well with those OSR type games. I think I have an idea that I might do 2 versions of it, a version that has really detailed descriptions, because it is, by its essence, a really detailed type of dungeon experience. Like every little detail matters. There's lots of cool little interactions between mechanisms and things in the adventure. However, I do like the OSR kind of stripped down style of adventure presentation, which allows game masters to put in all their own ideas about what all the little details are instead of necessarily taking the writer's ideas. So I may do 2 versions of it. One sort of stripped down version that doesn't have all those details, and then a really detailed, very deluxe edition that has all that stuff. And then whatever kind of game master you are, you can have access to both versions, and you can use the style that you like to run from more. I don't think I've seen that done before, so I think that would be kind of interesting. This project, this will still take a while. That'll be something maybe in the summertime or something. I'll have that ready, but we'll see. And I'm going to need to commission some art for it. I have some cool ideas for that as well. I think I want to make all the art themed on the map in a way. So you'd have an image of a room, and then behind it in black and white would be a cool illustration that's of an object or something that's in the room that would be fun to illustrate. I think that would be a pretty cool way to handle the art. So we'll see. Kind of a neat vision for that. But that's, again, somewhere down the line. But I've been thinking about it because I wanted to run the adventure again. Layout contracts. I've just got 2 more contracts to do 2 more books. So we're going to get those done here in the next couple of weeks. And so that'll be great. Like I said, it'll delay Shotgun just a little bit, but not too much. All right. Product highlight this week is going to be Debatable Actions, which is a book that I wrote in partnership with Louis Porter Jr. He had the idea. He had a Debatable Actions book for D20 Modern, asked if I could update it for Everyday Heroes, which I absolutely did. And whenever I update something, I'm going to add kind of my own spin and polish. So it's definitely his idea, then kind of my rules pattern on that. But one of the rules that I did take is he had these cards for the different debate arguments that you can make. And I think that's really cool because the way I've set up the rules for it is when you are going to get into one of these debates that you use debatable actions for, you have to pick out which cards. You get 3 cards that your character gets to use during the debate. And each card represents a specific type of argument. I used to do debate as one of my high school activities, so I know quite a bit about debating, and I love debating. I've won money doing that online and stuff, so it's a fun hobby. But so I've broken down the debates into kind of classic types of arguments, logical fallacies, rhetorical positions, things like this. And then so each of the cards kind of says what the rhetorical or debate idea is. It has a little example of what an argument of that type would look like, so that the reader can kind of know the sort of thing they're arguing, and then they can adapt that to whatever the subject matter is of the actual debate. Or they can just play the card and say, hey, I'm doing this argument. Here's the roll I need to make to see if I'm successful, and here is the outcome or consequence of succeeding at my roll. And so each argument, in addition to giving you a point in the debate that moves you further towards winning, or attacking an opponent and taking away one of their points, it can have sort of special effects, like giving the next speaker advantage on their check, or it has advantage when it's used to rebut a certain type of argument, like a logical fallacy against a logical argument, that kind of thing. So it's like a little strategy card game at the same time as a role-playing exercise. And it's just going to make a scene where, like, you're arguing before the king as to whether or not one of the fellow players should be executed, or you're trying to convince the big bad guy to give up his evil plans. Whatever it happens to be, if it's a situation of kind of a dramatic back and forth of arguments, and you want it to be more than just one intimidation roll or something like that, then you can make a whole scene and everybody in the party can participate to some degree. Not every character needs to speak. There are just kinds of supporting arguments you can make to help out your friends as they attack and kind of exchange verbal combat with the enemy. And it works a little bit like combat that has rounds and everything. And it's usually pretty fast. Usually you get like through the equivalent of 3 rounds of verbal combat, and usually by that point you've resolved the debate. So it's a pretty cool system, especially when, if you know what kind of outcome the debate's going to have, like as a game master, you're like, well, I know the players have to win this. It's just a matter of how they figure it out. Well, then it might not be so great, but you could still adapt it to that. But it's more for like, oh, we don't know how this is going to come out. Let's find out, and let's let the dice and the strategy decide. So that's Debatable Actions. It's for Everyday Heroes. You can totally use it for 5e, though. You just need to change the skills that are being tested, that kind of thing, to match whatever game you're playing for any other 5e game. But the advantage, disadvantage, the d20 rolls, all that's going to be the same. It's pretty cool. It's definitely different. I don't think it's for everybody, but if that sounds like a fun thing to introduce to your game, certainly can. My game master, Brian, ran that for us a couple times, and we had a good time with it, and everyone seemed to enjoy it. You can get it on DriveThruRPG, and we'll have a link in the show notes for that, and you can get it on Sidekick over for Evil Genius Games. And I think it costs $5 either way, or thereabouts. All right, game design tip of the week this week. These are table tricks, as in tables as in charts and tables, rather than the table that we all play upon. And these are things I've been thinking about because my secret project has a lot of tables in it. And so I've been forced to exercise my brain to come up with different ways to do tables in order to achieve different kinds of results. And so I'm just going to share some of these things that I've encountered or that I came up with, but probably not originally, so that you have some of these table tricks in your back pocket. So let's talk about the most simple kind of table, which is like a single dice table, which means you're rolling a d20 or a d8 or a d10. Generally speaking, you're going to have a dice that corresponds to about as many items as you have in your table. Generally, you're going to have one outcome per die roll. So if there's 6 options, roll a d6, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. However, doesn't mean you have to do it that way. If you, say, have an odd number of items in your table and you can't think of one to even them out, or you want different items in that table, even though it's a single dice roll, to have different prevalence, you can group numbers. So you can go 1 through 3 of this, 4 and 5 this, 6 that, right? And then you get uncommon, common, and rare result on the table with just 1 dice. It's generally simple. If you're using a big dice, like you used to see a lot of these tables for percentage dice, you can not only have the smallest number or the biggest number be the rarest, which is usually kind of intuitively the way people would do it. But you can have magic numbers, like if you roll 55 or 33, you get any kind of double or prime numbers, whatever it is you want to kind of feature. If your game has a theme that's numerical, you can put those into the tables to get special results, and then people know, oh, anytime I roll a 7 in this game, that's going to be something kind of special that happens because it's the lucky 7 role-playing game or whatever it happens to be. So linear tables are nice just because you know exactly what kind of outcomes you're going to get. It's just a single dice, so it's quick and easy. I use them most of the time. So if I know I don't need another kind of a table, I'm probably using a single dice linear style table presentation. All right, next up is the additive dice, also known as a bell curve table, which means you're going to roll 2d6, 3d6, 2d4, 3d8, whatever it happens to be, a combination of multiple dice. And this is going to give you a number between the number of dice, because you roll 1 on each of those, right? And the maximum total if you rolled the maximum on each dice. And it's called a bell curve because its shape starts down kind of low. You probably can't see my hand, I don't know. It goes up and then it goes down again. So the numbers in the middle are the most common because there are many different combinations of outcomes on the different dice that will add up to those numbers in the middle, as where the highest number and the lowest number require all the dice to have the same odds. So let's say you're rolling 1d6, the chance of any number is 1 in 6. If you're rolling 2d6, then the chance of the highest number and the lowest number is 6 times 6, so 1 in 36. So 2d6 actually gives you more extreme odds for the high and low than rolling 1d20, even though there are less numbers in the result, because the dice have to match on the 1s and the 6s to get the highest and lowest result. And each time you add a dice, you multiply those odds again to get the highest and lowest numbers. So it's very good for when you want something to have sort of very extreme rarity, to roll a number of dice, and then the very lowest and highest numbers are going to have very low odds of actually happening, as where the numbers in the middle are going to have very high odds. And the more dice you add, the more those numbers in the middle become kind of a stronger part of the bell curve. So this is good, like, I don't know, if you have a place, it's the rainy season, and so you want to roll up weather, and you're mostly going to get rainy weather, and so you put those in the middle, and then blue shiny skies might be out on the other end, and then tropical storms maybe, you know, the bottom few numbers, so it's a little bit rare, but still somewhat common. So that's the advantage of bell curves. You can also have special numbers on bell curves because not only can you say, oh, it's a 6, but if you rolled a 3 and a 3 specifically, so you can say doubles have some other special consequence. So if you rolled this number and it happened to be doubles, then this happens, but then another little bonus thing happens. So that's kind of a cool way to add special zest, especially if you're going to be rolling on that bell curve table a lot for different results. You can add some kind of special modifiers and stuff that happen. Next up, variable dice pools, and this is one that I had not seen before, but I ended up using in the project that I'm working on. And that's when the number of dice you roll can change. Think of it like advantage or disadvantage in Everyday Heroes, but you're going to take the highest or lowest result among the dice you rolled. So in the case of the table that I did, it's a D8, but you can roll 1d8, 2d8, or 3d8. And the idea being, if you're only rolling 1d8, of course, you can only get numbers from 1 to 8. And well, that's true no matter how many dice you roll, right? But if you roll 2d8 and you take the highest, then it weights the results towards higher numbers. If you take 3d8 and take the highest, then it more strongly weights towards the highest numbers. And consequently, if you do the opposite and you roll 2d8 and you take the lowest, then it results towards the lowest denominator. So why would you make a weird table like this in a system like this? Well, let's say you're going to you get lucky and you're going to get a good treasure, like you have a chance to get a good treasure, but you still might get a weak treasure. So you could roll, okay, this should be a good treasure, so you roll 3d8. You're much more likely to get high numbers on the table, which are going to be better treasures than the low numbers, right? However, on the other hand, maybe it's a really terrible treasure, like you get a treasure, but it's probably something terrible, but you maybe want a chance of something good, you never know. So you roll 3d8 and you take the lowest number, and that's the one you put, and so it's much more likely to be one of the low numbers on the table, but it's still, if you rolled 3 8s, which is very uncommon, you could still get the highest result. So it's kind of cool for a table where you want good and bad results, but you want to change the weight of the table based on the circumstances that you are in. And in this case, I think I was using it for whether or not a store has something in stock. And so depending on how wealthy the neighborhood is, it's more likely to have valuable items, and so more likely to have those items in stock. So you roll more dice, the more wealthy the neighborhood is, and then you will have a higher chance that, yes, indeed, the thing you want is in stock versus not in stock. All right, so that's I call that a variable dice pool because it's not adding like a bell curve. It is just taking the highest or lowest. Finally, we've got exploding dice, not something I've used recently for a table, but you certainly could have it as a table. So if you roll a d6, exploding dice, if you roll the highest number, then you are going to roll the dice again and add. And if it's infinitely exploding, then you can keep doing that every time. And so this makes the first numbers of the dice up to the exploding number, which won't be on the table at all because you can't actually roll it unless there's zeros on the dice. So it makes those numbers much more common. You'll get those most of the time. But if you do roll the explosion, then the next set of 5 or 6 numbers, however big your dice is, are going to have the next set of rarity. And then for a triple explosion, those are going to have an even more rarity. It is a little bit like rolling 3 dice, but when you step up a step, then you don't get increasing rarity, you just get another rank of rarity. And so this would actually be really good for that kind of like treasure variance table. So like you roll a dice, and if you get the 6, then you're on the uncommon treasures. You roll another d6, you get the 6. Oh my gosh, we're on the rare treasures. Roll a 6 again, wow, and then you're on the legendary treasures. Something like that, right? Of course, it would be hard to do that with just a d6 because usually there's lots of options for treasures. But you can see how that works. So you get a different kind of statistical variance and a different sort of outcome for the table. This, by the way, is a very similar system, even though it's not done on a table, to the wound system that I did for military heroes, wherein basically you roll, if you're going to get a crit, then you roll the wounding dice, and the first set of results are pretty much all minor wounds, but then if you roll the maximum number, then you're going to go up to a more serious set of wounds, and if you roll the maximum number on there, you're going to go up to a critical set of wounds, and so it goes up like that. Those really critical wounds could just straight up kill you, right? So pretty lethal system, but it has those tiered levels. I like exploding dice because they create a lot of drama, right? So you see that maximum result and you're like, whoa, something exciting is going to happen. And you get it again, you're like, oh my God, my mind is blown. And there's drama because at each stage you're having that new, like, what's going to happen. So they're pretty fun systems to work with. All right, there we go. I guess that's 4 different types of tables that you can do and the reasons you might do them. All right, playing games. What have I played this week? I played some No Man's Sky, pretty much light play, just a little bit here and there, tending to my stuff. I made a new Corvette design, which I think is pretty cool, and is a little more powerful than the old one I had. It works in more components, and I think it looks really nice. It took a little while. At first, it looked like a big flat wing kind of thing. I didn't like it so much, so I made some vertical elevation changes in the structure of it. Now it looks a lot more cool and organic, so I am pleased with that. Played Holiday Heroes. Game Master Brian ran us through his own created adventure for Krampus and Santa and all that kind of stuff, and it was really fun. We had a great time. It is a pretty wacky set of rules, and so you definitely make crazy characters and you get up to crazy hijinks. But everybody kind of knows the Christmas tropes, right? So you kind of know what you're up against and the kinds of weird things. I almost got eaten alive by cookies. There were all kinds of crazy things that happened. And what was pretty amusing is we got to the very end of the adventure and we lost. So it was supposed to be a 2-parter. And the first part we were trying to stop a naughty lister party that was happening in Times Square. So Jax Frost was going to do some kind of evil ritual with the naughty list and make a blood sacrifice. And he specifically wanted my character to be the blood sacrifice. And that was going to open up a portal and do all kinds of terrible things and make the naughty listers go mad and start rioting, right? And so we were trying to stop that. But of course, the plan involves me, and I got there, and we were having a battle there at the stage, trying to win over the crowd by DJing, and there's a battle going on and some fighting and stuff. And we're trying not to hurt anybody in the crowd. So it's kind of a complicated situation. And we weren't doing really great, but it was like neck and neck, right? And we had Jax Frost down to pretty low hit points. But he had hoverboarded up on the stage and grabbed me and was trying to like cut my hand to bleed on this thing to complete the ritual. When one of my allies, a snowman guy, took some shots, and he rolled a 2 and a 1. And in Everyday Heroes, when you roll a critical miss, shooting into a melee combat between 2 people, especially when they're grappling, you're going to hit your ally. I was the only ally there, so he hit me, and the Game Master decided what chance it was that my blood would end up on the book, and that's exactly what happened. So we completed the ritual for him and ruined Christmas. But it was a pretty epic ending to this story, so we all had a great time, and it was good fun. That's what I love about role-playing. You never know exactly what's going to happen, and it's just fun to go with the punches. And losing at the last moment, in a way, is the most satisfying, because you had to have a full, nice, great game session that comes down to the end. Now, it did kind of ruin the idea of part 2, Although, you could redo it, but he had counted on us winning that engagement and then going on to stop a greater plot. But anyway, it was good times. I really appreciate it. I had a great time with it. I also got to play Tomb of the Lost just yesterday. Ran the first session of that. This is a game adventure I wrote a long time ago. I have a lot of fun with. And everybody seemed to really enjoy it. I had some new surprises for people this time around. I mean, they've never played it before, but new surprises for me. And it's cool because it's a dungeon full of different challenges and situations that are hard to deal with. And I don't prescribe certain solutions. I certainly put the keys to different ways to solve these puzzles in the adventure. But the characters are going to need to add their own ingenuity, put the puzzles together, and try to figure out whatever resources their characters have that are unique to them as ways to solve the challenge. So one of the great things, they were stuck in an oubliette at first, and two of the characters could get out of the oubliette, but there was an NPC and another character that really just didn't have the means to get out of there. There's a big pit and like a well filled with water, and there's a secret door about 30 feet up, but it's quite difficult to climb up there. One character could turn into a bat. Another one managed to make the DC 25 climb check to get up there. Actually missed by one, but we gave it to him with a little bit of help from the bat. And so he's up there, but they couldn't get the others. And eventually what he did, which I thought was pretty brilliant, is he cast web on the side of the cylinder so that it was all sticky and gooey. And then you had to make strength checks to like get up it, but it lasts for an hour. So I was like, okay, given an hour, you guys can glue stick your way up the side of this thing with great effort and disgusting results. But in the end, you will get up to the top. And I was like, that was a great way to solve that problem. Really cool. Some parties have a devil of a time trying to get out of that oubliette. For some, it's really easy. They just have a levitate spell and a rope, and they get out. But this party didn't have those things. They also didn't have a light, so only some of the characters could see. It was good fun. We had a great time. Got about a third of the way through it, I would say, maybe half. Just kind of depends on how it goes. The early encounters, in a way, are more detailed and complex than the later encounters, which are a little more dramatic, but a little bit more one note. So we'll see how they go through it. But I had good fun, and it gives me additional encouragement. This is definitely a good adventure to get out there and share with other people. Nomad Ann on the Twitch channel has been playing No Man's Sky primarily so far. A little reduced schedule because she has been working on all this outline or layout work that we're doing for Shotgun Fantasy and as contract work. Life in general. Well, I got a lot of stuff this week going on because it was 2 weeks, really. So I had a very Merry Christmas visiting my friends. That was awesome. Got out to Seattle, hung out with Jeff and Kate Grubb and all my other friends down there. And we had a Merry Christmas, and we had a great feast, and the food was really awesome. The conversation was lovely. I got to sit around on a couch and watch a bunch of movies before and after. So had a really nice time, went out, had some great food, had some sushi, which I haven't had in a long time. Christmas sushi, yeah, it's a good tradition. But it was a really nice sushi place, and so, I don't know, it was just a really nice 3 days. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It has been a bit hectic lately, juggling all the things going on, holiday stuff, work stuff, gift store stuff, personal stuff. We'll talk about more of that. So I've been a little harried, but I feel pretty good. I did not enjoy at all the politics around the holiday season. I don't talk a lot about that on the show, but it is part of my life, an emotional state. And boy, on Christmas, I like to see good tidings and joy and people being helped and stuff, not bombs being dropped on people and stuff like that. So I did not like that at all. I had some rough nights sleeping lately, maybe just due to stress, also a little back pain and stuff. I'm sure, my trouble, usually I sleep really great, right? So for me, having trouble sleeping is probably like a normal night for a lot of people I know that end up waking up a lot in the middle of the night or have medical issues that give them problems. So I don't want to say that like my problems are special problems, but there's just still, for me, I didn't sleep so well lately, kind of bad dreams, rolling around a lot. So that's not so great. But survivable. Usually I just get in some extra sleep, which I have the luxury to do sometimes, and that takes care of that. Although last night was lovely. Slept pretty well. Let's see, what else going on? The gift store has been pretty busy. A lot of people coming in on the holidays, buying stuff. I sold so much Pokemon. It's not a Pokemon store or really a heavy-duty game store, but Pokemon sells well in the winter when a lot of our gifts and beach tchotchkes do not. Since people are not coming here. We also sell a lot of sweatshirts and Christmas decorations. So it was fun. It's nice to wish people happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all that. People are always in a good mood at the gift store. And yay, I don't have to listen to holiday music anymore. We got about a month of straight holiday music, and that's over with, so I'm happy about that. My car made strange noises last night. I thought maybe the transmission was dying. Although today we drove it around to run some errands, get some groceries, and I figured out it's not the transmission. It's probably the engine, maybe a loose valve, something like that. I'm not a car expert. I've had a car for many years, so I've kind of been through some of those things, and we just did some experiments and discovered that we could get the noise to happen when the car wasn't moving. So that eliminates a lot of possibilities. When the transmission wasn't engaged, and you lift the hood, you listen here, you listen there. I think it's probably the engine's probably going to need some engine work done on it. Good news is it's a hybrid. It has kind of a little small engine, so it's not like a huge major overhaul to get in there and work on stuff. Bad news is it's hybrid. Everything is more complicated in some ways, so we'll see. I got an appointment to take it in. I don't think it's just going to die suddenly, but I'm certainly of a mind that you want to get on health problems and car problems and house problems early, because the longer they go, the more expensive they get. Speaking of which, I had a health scare. So the same day yesterday, it was a very busy day yesterday. I was using the bathroom and I was like, oh my gosh, is that blood? When I was peeing. And I'm like, that's scary. I'm worried about that. So I'm thinking about it. I had to run off and run my D&D game. And I did that. Fortunately, I'm very good at compartmentalizing. Like, I will worry about this later. And I will focus on having a good time now. So I had a great time. But then I got back. I was doing a little research. And, I didn't want to tell Anne right away until I looked some things up. Like, is that color really what I think it is? Et cetera, et cetera. And I was really worried, and I was going back over to the kitchen to grab some nice curried lentils that my wife had made for dinner. And I looked over, and I was like, oh, yeah, there's some of those leftover beets. I think I'll have some of those, too. Wait a second. And I quickly Googled it, like, does eating beets turn your pee pink? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, apparently it does. And I ate a lot of beets the other day. So that was a false health scare. I'm fine. And I thought it was weird because I didn't feel any problems or anything strange going on, but that doesn't always mean anything. But the beats explain it very clearly. And apparently it's a common thing. People end up in the emergency room or they call 911 because they ate too many beets and they didn't realize it has that effect. I never had that happen before. I've eaten beets before, but I've never eaten quite that many. They were really good. They were kind of like sweet and mild, and I really liked them a lot. So I chowed down on those things, and there are consequences to that. Not necessarily bad ones, but if you're not prepared, it could scare you a little bit. So word to the wise. But I'm apparently in fine health. All right. Finally, I'm really stoked to start promoting Shotgun Fantasy. 2-3 weeks or so, I'm going to spend some of that time once I've got my secret project done to really drum up some marketing ideas and get some talking points and identify people that I'm going to contact and give review copies to and all that kind of stuff, the kind of media blitz. And we're really going to do our best to get the word out about Shotgun Fantasy, get as many people to play it as possible. So I would appreciate when the time comes if you get a copy and you like it, if you want to post a review of it wherever you can do that, especially on drive-through, that kind of thing. That really helps any creator, myself included. If you like something, give it a good review on a place where you can review it. If you think it's cool, tell your friends about it, that kind of thing. It is the kind of free marketing that can help a small company get a greater reach and grow and become larger. So really appreciate that when people can do that. You don't have to, of course. If you just enjoy it, then that makes me perfectly happy as well. Especially if you tell me about that, because then I know, and then I can know to be happy that you enjoyed it. All right. Well, I hope, speaking of enjoyment, that you guys had a lovely time. I hope your new year brings you wonderful and fantastic things as we head into 2026. I'm sure I'll talk more about the new year. I usually pick a theme for my year. It's like an aspirational theme of some kind rather than making specific resolutions. Because my life never goes exactly according to any particular plan. But I try to, some kind of a theme. And that also doesn't always work out the way I expected. The year I got leukemia, I did not have struggle to survive as part of my theme. These things just sort of happen. You don't know. But I haven't chosen a theme for this year. I am going to give it a little bit of consideration. I don't know that it really does anything to pick one, but maybe it helps you meditate a little bit and get some more intentionality in your life and choose a direction, right? And try to go there. So I'm sure it'll be something that coincides with releasing my first book and trying to grow the business and into new directions and new heights. All right. So I think that's all I got. A little long outro here. Once again, farewell and take care.